93, everybody, and I guess I'm here now to do the last in the series of talks I've been doing on the Major Arcana and the Path of Initiation. This is the last card. We've talked about all the 21 cards of the Major Arcana, and now we'll talk about the full. Path number 11, and interestingly enough, it is Atu 0. So it's something to think about. It's a path that connects the crown with Hakma, the first swirlings, Kata, with Hakma, will, wisdom, the activating force of the supernal triad. In the last talk, I kind of went off on a tangent about the teachings of Carlos Castaneda and his time with a shaman in Mexico. But I didn't actually finish where I was going, which way I was going on that whole tangent. So basically, what I was trying to explain is that when he went down to Mexico and he met this shaman, part of a secret society of people in Mexico, uh, he was led through various stages of initiation and to the point where they came to a point that was called leaping to the abyss. And he was kind of guided to a state through these teachings and initiations where he had the actual perception of God. And he described it as a great light, kind of looking like an eagle. Excuse me while I adjust my camera. But with all these threads of light coming off of it. And in my last talk, remember I talked about the fiber optics that both transmit and receive information. And so anyway, I wanted to kind of elaborate on that because I kind of got lost in that whole, what I was talking about, what I was trying to say. So anyway, in this talk, I will be talking about the full, path number 11. The Sefer Yetzirah, as I usually start these talks, has this to say about the path. The 11th path is the scintillating intelligence, because it is the essence of that curtain which is placed close to the order of the disposition. And this is a special dignity given to it, that it may be able to stand before the face of the cause of causes. So it is the essence of that curtain. So think about that curtain, meaning the abyss, that which is placed close to the order of the disposition, that it may be able to stand before the face of the cause of causes. So at this point in the initiatic journey, we're above the abyss that separates the nominal from the phenomenal, the abyss created by us in material manifestation, and our forgetfulness of our divine origin, our forgetfulness that we are Melech the King. We are not disconnected, we have forgotten. The card title, of course tonight, this evening I'm talking about the full, is the Spirit of the Aether. The path title is the Scintillating Intelligence. Path number 11, Atu 0. So this is kind of interesting. 0. Unmanifested creation. All things unified. I need to kind of follow my notes as we go along on this card. There's so much to say about these cards above this that exist above the supernal, but the problem is at this level of spiritual energetic interaction with creation, it is very hard for us in our normal state of consciousness to even conceive of energy, spirit, in this facet of creation. So it connects Kether, the first swirling, and also within ourselves, the supreme spiritual self, Arc Anpin, the supreme spiritual self, with Hakma, wisdom, will, the activating fire. He touches the limitless. He is the infinite becoming finite. And on the path of return, what does he represent? The finite becoming infinite. You are an infinite being. All the trappings of the material world are just trappings, for they are all what? Seated in what? Impermanence. Everything that you pursue in this life is seated in impermanence. And this is the permanent, that aspect of yourself that is permanent. Seek ye that. You hear a lot of different people talking about different things like, oh, I don't have time, this, and your various, the various places you place your attention, and placing so much importance on the impermanence. And that's something, we're here as, we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. It's kind of a cliche, but in truth, it's an absolute truth. This is like a playground, just a school ground, where you're here to gain experience. But at this level of initiation, you're now, above the veil. So you can completely see, you can fully see the mechanics of the universe. Okay, so let me get back to my notes so I don't just keep going on. The Hebrew letter is Aleph, ox. The meaning of this letter is ox, which is the large domesticated, I guess, it's not really a cow, but it's a domesticated ox. Well, it's an ox that was domesticated to pull carts and do farming work, showing its link to fertility. It is showing the force fertilizing the earth. Gareth Knight says this, that the spirit's aim is rooted in earth. Okay, think about that. Spirit's aim is rooted in earth. And I like to think about it this way. You know how we talk about electrons and the positive charges and negative charges. I always think about the positive charge being drawn to the negative in material manifestation. It's just something to meditate on. The ox represents a strong primal force of creation. So the primal force, as it begins its idea to manifest. And in Norse mythology, the ox is represented by the cow Audhumla, who nurtured primal creation. Okay. Paul Foster Case, so I'm trying to stick to my notes here, says that the ox is the life power. Now the letter Aleph in Gematria also adds to 111, showing the essence manifested in the three-dimensional universe, in the three worlds represented on the tree of life. I'm sorry. And using Gematria, we see the words Om, and these are words that add to 111. So we see the words Om, and then the phrase thick darkness. And we talked about the light of the supernals being a thick darkness. The phrase Akkad Huwa Alhim, or He is one God, they all add to 111. He is the cosmic egg containing all potential, the babe in the egg, containing the pure essence, spirit moving into manifestation, ready to be acted upon by the magician. He is the initial thought projected, into mind. The full air activates the magician as breath activates the voice. Now think about that. The magician kind of represented the speaking of your will, your word. This is the spirit activating this into incarnation. Okay? So on the path of return, he represents the one to the zero. The initiate has now merged himself completely with the infinite. Okay, so he is the babe in the egg, containing the pure essence, spirit moving into manifestation, ready to be acted upon by the magician. He is the initial thought projected into mind. Remember, the magician represents the mind. The full air activates the magician as breath activates the voice. He is the all, Pan, the divine spirit that fills the universe. He is the infinite, moving into the one and manifesting as two. On the path of evolution, the path of return, the formula is the 2, 1, 0. 2, division, right? Moving into unity, 1, merging with infinity, 0. Aleph is one of the 3 mother letters, the others being Mem, which I talked about in an earlier talk. The others being Mem, the universal waters, as seen here in the Hanged Man, representing also what? Stability. So think about this, stability, spirit coming into stability. And Shin, fire, the fire of the Holy Spirit, inspiration, movement. So it's the activating force within the universe. The Raja is the sulfur. By its shape, Aleph is also the swastika, a very unpopular symbol that was misused by the Nazis. It's, seen in the Vedic tradition, seen all around the world. It's always been a symbol of the sun and the symbol of lightning. So think about this, the first swirlings. And you kind of can see it in Crowley's card, which I'll get into in just a few moments. On the spiritual journey of evolution, which I have been talking about, I keep saying we because again these were live classes at one time. This Atu represents the highest attainment, referred to in the Book of the Law, chapter 312, as Ordeal X, the highest attainment. So think about this. Many of your wise men, your holy men, have always been thought about or are regarded by society as madmen, crazy, out of this world, hiding in a cave, eating locusts. The enlightened man who separates himself from the world is crazy. Is something, But little they know, the world is crazy. We're just enjoying it. Anyway. So you think about the highest attainment, and the way spiritual prophets, and wise men, druids throughout the centuries have been regarded as, even among, indigenous tribes, the special touched person was considered touched by the spirits or touched by the gods, maybe to have special gifts, and they often did. So. Anyway, like many of your autistic children are very spiritually gifted. In our modern society, our prophets are in insane asylums. We lock them up in we don't call them those anymore, but in psychiatric hospitals and medication. Our kids that are our future prophets, seers, the great ones who bring the messages of the divine to humanity are on medication. So anyway, I won't go on a rant on that. So the letter ox, OX, also represents the unity of spirit and matter. So remember, this is spirit being prepared to be manifested so that as it moves into denser forms of reality. So think about that. So the O and the ox represent the unity of spirit and matter, the total union, the merging completely of the initiate and the universe, the squaring of the circle. And these are concepts that are so hard to grasp by our everyday reasoning, because this is a level that very few initiates fail to reach. And so this is a level that's very hard to reach and very hard to understand, because you're in a reality where there are no opposites. All things contain their opposites. And all 21 cards of the Major Arcana kind of represent this energy coming into manifestation and its return. So we have the 0 to the 1, we have the 0 to the 1 and the 1 to the 0. As I talked about in the last talk, with like Malkuth being the 1 to the 0. In the Zohar, the Kabbalistic book, the Zohar, as well as in the Book of the Law, the relationship between Aleph and Lamed is emphasized. So think about this. So Lamed is the path of adjustment. And in the old decks, it was called justice. But there is no justice in the universe. Nature herself is never just. She's exact. And I talked about that in that talk. So hopefully if you're, I know that these talks are kind of, don't have the latest technology, but hopefully if you're following these talks, you've started doing some of the work that we've been talking about. Because really your whole existence is to gain experience. You have to remember that your spirit gaining experience. All things that you place your importance on are impermanent. So regardless of how your false ego, the ego ruled by your shadow, tries to convince you the importance of the physical realm, which it is in the sense of experience, but not in the sense of sacrifice. You're not going to throw yourself on the cross of the material realm to gain nothing but impermanence and attachment. So anyway, that's a thought. Okay, so anyway, I'm going to get back to my notes. So again, with the Zohar and the Book of the Law, which is an inspired book by Crowley. The only reason I mention that because I am a Thelemite in my magical and spiritual practice. So the relationship between Aleph and Lamed is emphasized. Al equals 31, and it is the god name of Hesed. So Aleph is the ox, and Lamed is the ox goad. It's a tool which spurns the ox into action. Okay? So we have the ox and the ox goad. And see, you can see the relationship on this tree, reflecting into each other. And so Lamed is a letter attributed to the path of adjustment, like I said, which represents balanced movement. So the outflowing of the fool's energy needs to be controlled and balanced in order to keep to create the balance that is required to manifest a physical universe. Going back to my notes again. I'm sorry I'm slow, but okay. So again, the path of Lamed, adjustment or justice, is ruled by Libra, the sign of balance. Ruled by Venus, wherein Saturn is exalted. Love is the work, but Saturn represents containment. So it's a containment of that spirit and a directing of that spirit in balance. And I always think about riding a bike. Okay, and so one of the symbols for Libra is the Egyptian goddess Mot, which means right, showing the equilibrium required to bring about the physical universe. And the Zohar also describes Aleph as absolute unity. And you think about it like in the symbol of the zero. Absolute unity. You see a central yod here. This is my rendition with two small yods, both above and below. Showing again the unity of spirit and matter, as above, so below. And again, the the Hebrew alphabet is the flame alphabet because all the letters of the alphabet are based on the yod, which is the yod of the tetragrammaton, yod, he, vav, he. He is the Greek Harpocrates, the Egyptian Huru Pakrat, the child god, the god of silence, because the word has not yet been spoken. So this is another emphasis on meditation. God of beginnings. Again, the activating force behind the first vibration. He is the one minus the one, the fertilized egg. The animals in both cards represent the mindless powers of creation that overthrow primitive creation. The ego and the animal instincts that overthrow our will to divine attainment. Okay, so now we'll kind of look at the cards. Now, like I said, this is the last in this series. I hope you've got something out of it. I know I'm kind of slow in the way, I kind of try to explain things. But I'm hoping to finish this up, and we're going to look at the cards real quick. You have to excuse me as I try to get it up here. Okay, so in Crowley's card, you see the green man of spring, the great fool of the Celts, leaping forth. And his card is great. I mean, this is the leaping forth of, into creation. The combined forces of Ein Sof and Ein Sofar united. And I was thinking about it, atomic reference, but I just slipped my mind. But anyway, united to bring forth you. This is your original essence, your spirit, before it manifested in the physical reality. Because we're talking about the path of return in these talks. I'm talking about the path of return in these talks. Now, Crowley's focus was on the letter shape of Aleph, saying that it resembles a plow, pointing to the phallus penetrating the earth. Excuse me, I have a pointer that I'm using, and I keep hitting everything with it. Okay, sorry about that. So, the energies of the three veils of negative existence swirl about him. And you can see them here. See right here? the Kundalini energy, the creative energy of the universe. Now the crocodile, you can barely see it right down here, is the Egyptian god Sebek, who created order out of chaos. Now, kind of an alternative meaning for the crocodile. It also symbolizes the encasing of spirit in matter. Now, this figure has two horns up here. I hope you can see those. They're the horns of Dionysus Zagreus. I'm sorry, kind of got tongue-tied there. Whose consort is the earth. He is the god of divine ecstasy, madness. And I talked about that madness earlier. The initiate at this state has reached and lives in a state of divine ecstasy, a divine madness, and is seen as by the world as a madman. You know, he's insane. He's out of his mind. He doesn't do what we do. Okay, and so you see here the grapes of Bacchus, which represents spiritual ecstasy. Crowley calls the zero the vacuum of space. This fool is surrounded by the various components that make up the physical universe. And I'm doing the best I can to explain this card. So they're all contained, but not yet divided. You see the various geometric shapes up here. The activating fire. The dove, which represents the Holy Spirit, which Crowley refers to as the phallus, one of the fertilizing, the lingam. The butterfly represents metamorphosis. The sun is in his groin here, showing that the creative force is projected through the light of our sun. So I talked about that in an earlier talk about the sunlight contains, we can only perceive certain spectrums of light, and that sunlight contains information. I talked about that earlier in my last talk. You see yodes raining down, and again, it's the fertilizing force of the universe. You see two small children at the bottom, united. I'm sorry, I dropped the card. So you see two united in embrace, also pointing to the fact that here all things are unified and not yet divided. You see the caduceus wand here of Mercury. And again, we talked about, Mercury, the magician, and it's coming into being. You see how it's spinning, and it's right here at the end of this spiral. It's coming into being. It's moving into the Word. The flowers in the bottom also represent unity. I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time holding this card. The yin and the yang energy united. Giving birth to the central bloom of the rose cross. You see what looks like coins, which have on them the signs of the zodiac. Here, I'm trying to get right here in my camera, which will give order to the universe and bring the idea of linear time to the infinite. He is in the green of nature, spring, birth. He has the blues of Qesheth, or Hesed, and the yellows of Tiphereth. For he is also the divine child, as you are the divine child. Crowley wrote a book titled Liber Aleph, which contains various writings and instructions to his magical child, Frater Akkad, Charles Stansford Jones. And I highly recommend this book. It has some great Thelemic teachings, kind of gets in the mind of Crowley. It's a great book, and if you get a chance, I would definitely recommend it as an important read. We'll look at Wade's card real quick. And it's much more simple, of course. You see a person getting ready to step off a precipice. He holds the white rose, of purity, as he is still pure, virgin, and manifested. Behind him is a white sun representing Kether, from which he issued. He is unbothered by the dog which follows him, which represents the animal nature that must be subdued in the path of return. And so this is part of the work of the earlier paths of the personality that I have spoken about earlier. Asana, pranayama, dharana, the control of the body, the control of the mind, and the control of the emotions, or the subconscious. This is very important work to be done in order for the initiate to attain these higher levels of initiation. And so, and in doing these practices, you do subdue that dog. You put that dog in its place, and it's no longer jumping on you and distracting you from the great work. Okay, let's get back to the card. Okay. He isn't bothered by the dog. He carries a bag over his shoulders containing all that he will need. And that bag kind of represents his karma, the baggage he's going to be carrying into his next incarnation. You never escape the force of your actions. They go from life to life until they're corrected. And this is why the great work is so important. Okay. The red feather on his cap may represent Mot, the Egyptian goddess of balance, of right, but it's colored red in Waite's card, which symbolizes the creative force, the Mars force, the motivating force of creation. Okay, the air that we breathe. So I'm going to get to the point of talking about the practices. The air that we breathe contains prana, life force. Because we're swimming in this electric force, this creative force. We are like fish. Water is like a denser form of the air, the gases that we exist in, the water as we know it. The water and the area above it are just different gases. And we are also like fish swimming in these waters of creation. And these waters contain energy, symbolized by the yods that you saw in Crowley's cards. And so it is so important to do breath exercises such as pranayama that are described in Raja Yoga that I talked about in the earlier paths of the personality. So again, if you haven't been following these talks, I would go back to the universe card and follow it up. But I'd also advise to do the work that goes along with it in order to attain to these higher spiritual levels of initiation. Because again, this is permanence. All other things in the manifested reality is impermanence. And think about it this way also. So in this journey, you give up a lot, but you gain a lot. At a certain point in your spiritual initiation, you will be unmoved by the events around you. You will choose what to enjoy and what to reject. You'll have power over your physical incarnation and be able to better enjoy the worlds of spirit and matter, as the great sage Vivekananda. He said, I can enjoy both the spiritual and the physical because I don't have the attachments. Now, again, this is a level of initiation or spiritual consciousness that most have not attained yet. So seek ye that. Anyway, put that card back up there. Get on with my talk. Okay, so we're going to look at the attributions according to 777. The color in this king scale, again, the paths represent the movement, the movement of spirits. So we always use the king scale for the paths and the queen scale for the sephiroth. It's bright pale yellow. The stone is topaz or chalcedony. Now, I may be mispronouncing that. I've never heard it said. It's called chalcedony. The plants are the aspen or the sycamore. And you think about this whole path being ruled by air, one of the elemental paths. The animals, the eagle or man. The magical power is divination. The vegetable drug is peppermint. The perfume, galbanum or frankincense. The magical weapon, air, the dagger, and the fan. The air dagger and fan. The god forms, Jupiter, Bayu, the Norse Valkyries, Zeus, Nuit. And I'll finish this talk with a reading by Crowley. And I also wanted to mention another mention in the Book of the Law concerning this particular path. It says, my prophet is a fool with his one. Are not they the ox, and none by the book? And we'll finish this with a reading from Crowley. Know not, all ways are lawful to innocence. Pure folly is the key to initiation. Silence breaks into rapture. Be neither man nor woman, but both in one. Be silent, babe, in the egg of blue, that thou mayest grow to bear the lance and grail. Wander alone and sing. In the king's palace his daughter awaits thee. 93. That's all I had to say about this talk. If there's any other things that you'd like me to talk about, just let me know in the comments. Again, my next talk will be on the I Ching. And until then, 93.